Guys, I wanted to tell you that it's so important for us scapegoats to learn how to process our own feelings and our emotions and to become mindful of our triggers. It's so important that we learn to do that because, growing up in a dysfunctional family system, we were never taught how to do those things. In fact, we were demonized for doing those things. You know, any show of emotion that diverts, attention away from the narcissistic parent equals drama, abuse, name calling, silent treatments, you name it. This is what they do. They prevent us from getting in touch with ourselves. They prevent us from getting to know who we are, and they taught us that we're not supposed to feel what we feel. They taught us that, you know, that didn't happen the way it did, right? They teach us that how we feel is irrelevant to the bigger picture, right? There's always a bigger picture with them, and how we feel is irrelevant. We don't see the bigger picture. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about the importance of learning to process your emotions healthily, okay? And to do that, first I wanted to tell you a little bit about emotions and feelings and the difference between the two, because understanding that is actually super helpful. Um, so the basic emotions, I like to follow Dr. Ekman's model. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Sorry, Dr. Ekman. He's the guy who discovered micro expressions. So he's pretty cool. You should check him out. So the basic emotions that you're supposed to feel, that don't make you a demon, but you're actually supposed to feel them. You got disgust, you have surprise, joy, contempt, sadness, fear, and anger. Okay, those are the basic emotions that everybody feels. Now, the thing about emotions is that, emotions are an instinct. Okay, they're like a primal animal instinct. Okay, they serve to protect you, like quickly. Like something's here, run. Danger. This is toxic. This is good. This is bad. That's what emotions do, and they give us really important messages that are, quite useful, right? Don't go near this. Like, for example, disgust. I said that in a previous video. Disgust for me is a big one because I know when I was in high school, I started feeling disgust around my abusive mother. I just couldn't be near her. I just felt like, oh my God, she was so toxic. And so I felt disgust, and then I felt ashamed for feeling disgust, and because it was weird. It's my mother. Aren't I supposed to love her? You know. But that wasn't it. That wasn't how I felt. I felt disgust. And so, your emotions, they serve you well. They give you messages, but they're tricky. Okay, they're tricky, and I'm going to talk about that. The thing about emotions is that even though they give you messages, sometimes your emotions don't have enough information to make a decision that is best for you. Okay, because your emotions only see the immediate, run, right? But they don't see the long-term solution to a problem. They don't see the long-term. They don't see the whole picture. For example, let's say you have a boss, and it's Friday night. You're getting ready to go home, and the boss gives you some extra work. So your immediate reaction would probably be anger, right? Friday night, you're not supposed to work, so you're kind of angry. You don't. And you have a choice whether to act on that anger or not. But the thing that your anger is not telling you is that you've got two possibilities. Number one, he could be a jerk, sure. And number two, he could be leaving early because his wife's in the hospital, and he trusted you the most to get the job done. And maybe you'll be up for that promotion. Whatever it is, right? So, there are different possibilities. But your anger won't know that. Your anger only knows can't leave angry, right? So Feelings, on the other hand, are a bit more complex. A feeling is, uh, what you think of the emotion, like your conclusion, like your memories, everything kind of put together that you experienced will give you the feeling. So, for example, the story with the boss. Well, at the end of the day, you're gonna decide him if you like him or if you don't like him. That's a feeling. And now the third thing is that trigger. You know, you have to become mindful of triggers. Triggers are huge blockers to reality, to what's actually happening in the present moment. And the thing about triggers is that you may not even know that you have it. And I'm going to give you some examples. Well, first of all, a trigger is your body sort of being transported into the past. Your body is in a time machine and it's going back in time into where you were, in that moment, a moment that made you suffer and that you can't get out of your mind. So for me, if I can give you an example, one of my triggers used to be a smile, like a certain smile. Because my narcissistic mother used to, when she was abusive towards me, she would often smile when I was crying. And she had this look of disgust when she looked at me. And she would call me an actress. She would say that I'm acting. My panic attacks were acts, for attention that I didn't deserve. That's how she treated, the post-traumatic stress disorder, the CPTSD. That's how she treated it. It was an act. Panic attacks were an act for her. So then she had this smile when she would do that. So I found that super traumatic. And so in my future relationships that I had, that's what would happen in relationships. If somebody had sort of a weird smile, that was a trigger for me. That was a huge trigger for me. So, if you think about all your triggers, it could be anything that brings you back to the past. It could be perfume, food. Somebody not paying attention to you could be a trigger, because if you were giving the silent treatment, other people's emotions can be a trigger, like if you're not allowed to express your emotions, you're not going to let other people allowed to express their emotions, right? So, or, it's also because you had a parent that weaponized their own emotions. So somebody expresses their emotions and then you think, oh, they're trying to manipulate me, right away. That could be a trigger. There's so many triggers that we could have, and it's so important to find out what those triggers are. That's why it's important to learn to take a step back and to allow the emotions to pass before we act out on them. That's the first thing that I want to say. Because emotions, they're kind of like little clouds, There's clouds that are floating all over the sky, but if there's too many clouds, you don't see the sky anymore. You don't see the big picture, so you have to wait for those clouds to pass. And that's the thing about emotions, they come and they go and they come and they go. You are not your emotions. You experience them, okay? It's an experience. It's not who you are as a person. You're not anger itself. You're not guilt. You're not shame. You're not any of the feelings that you feel or the emotions that you feel. They are not who you are. You are experiencing them. And so, the correct way to handle them is you don't act on it necessarily, but just kind of allow them to take their course in your body. Take a deep breath, figure out where do you feel those emotions in your body. Is it your head, like anger? Is it anxiety in your stomach? Is it your shoulders? Like, where do you feel what you're feeling, You become the observer, you practice mindfulness, and you go, okay, I'm experiencing a trigger. I'm experiencing anger, I'm experiencing sadness, I have the experience of something, and then you kind of have to observe it, go towards it, and, ask yourself, am I really upset because of this stupid thing, or is it something a lot deeper that I need to connect with, within myself, and find out, how I can bring that out of my body and process it, So you allow yourself to feel your feelings. Give yourself some time. If you can maybe take an hour a day, 5 minutes a day, just to sit by yourself and allow yourself a little bit of time each day to sit down and just kind of get to know where your feelings are in your body. Pay attention to anxiety. You know, the first time I did this, the first time that I did this practice, I was still, in the system. But I sat down with just by myself, and I noticed that my anxiety came in waves, and I could almost time them. So that was really interesting, and then that's when I started realizing, whoa, I have a lot of anxiety in my body. I wasn't even aware that I was functioning like this. So yeah, it took a long, like months and months of processing and learning how to connect with my emotions. So you gotta assign some time each day to do that, to connect with yourself. So that's it. That's sort of my advice to you for today about healthy emotional processing. I hope it helps you a little bit, from this survivor to you. Just remember, I love myself, I trust myself, okay? That's what you gotta do. Love yourself, trust yourself, and start to process those emotions. Start to process.